in public session, we're in executive session, we're now back in public session. So I'll call the meeting back to order, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance as we do, today led by Sean.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a number of very important items here for open forum tonight. So Kristen, why don't you take it away?
Sure. So first off, we'd like to congratulate Mike Wells, who is our IT director for Town and School, on his well-deserved retirement. He served as the technology director for the town of Westford for over 13 years. I know he is a go-to person for many of our employees, as well as board and committee members, as well as people who come to town meeting or see him around, so you'll be sorely missed. We'll miss your British accent, your British sayings, your Yorkshire pudding that you bring to the Christmas parties and holiday parties. Christmas pudding, excuse me. But wishing you all the best in your retirement, and I think we have a certificate. Do you want to present this?
We do, but maybe just if other people have any comments first before we do that. So I want to thank, I had a chance to work with Mike on many projects, but especially on the Town and School Safety Task Force, which involved a lot of how do we do this with IT questions, I think, which has really helped the security of our students. Really appreciate your cooperation and partnership there. And then during COVID and the switch to us having to get good suddenly at hybrid and virtual presence, you stuck with it and found a way to make it happen, and I think we should all be just incredibly grateful to you for all the work that you've done. So, thank you, Mike. I don't know if anybody else has a comment.
Yeah, I do. So, I've had numerous opportunities to also work with Mike. A lot of times he's supporting my meetings, whether it's pedestrian safety or one of the other boards and committees that I've been involved with. So, it always seems like he's always available, super awesome with obviously the IT stuff. I am amazed at what you're able to do with the resources we give you, which, isn't probably as much as you would love it to be, but, you put it all together, you keep us safe from a technology perspective, which is no small feat in this day and age. Hope everything goes well for the next 2 weeks. And I'm not jinxing you, right? But yeah, I think we're going to really miss you, and I wish you the best. And as we were talking, as we were walking in, I can see you in my mind playing with your trains and enjoying your retirement.
I can only echo that. Yeah, I guess my experience is like with the capital planning committee, where you orchestrated the modernization of our IT department, and also with supporting the schools and the committees and everything else. I think it was a superb job. I don't know how you did it, but you did it and stayed pretty much in budget. So, great job. It was always a pleasure working with you. Appreciate it.
It's been a great pleasure working. I've loved working here. I've driven all this way each day to do it. So I must have enjoyed it for that. But I think town is very lucky to have a really good professional staff, got some really good department heads, and that makes all the difference.
It's not the luxurious office space we provide you.
No, which I noticed is getting repainted now. I'm leaving.
You didn't even ask for hazard pay.
That's right.
Come on up, and if anyone could take a picture of Mike receiving this special award. So, thank you for all you've done for the town. Thank you.
All right.
All right, smile, everyone.
Thank you. And we're blessed to have another person to celebrate for her long and excellent service to town.
Yes, so at our last meeting, you heard that Carol Engel was stepping down as a Housing Authority member. This evening, I know she can't be with us, but we want to recognize Carol on her retirement from the Housing Authority as being a member for over 34 years. And we do have a certificate that we will make sure we get to her. So congratulations, Carol. Next, we'd also like to congratulate telecommunicator Rebecca Michaels on receiving the Lifesaver Award from State 911 based on her outstanding performance during a cardiac arrest call on Sunday, August 17th, 2025. State 911 was actually out in Westford on Friday and was able to present Rebecca with a certificate, and we were able to celebrate her at that point in time. She does not like the limelight very much, so she was invited this evening, but prefers to just keep behind the desk and do her work. But we really appreciate her service as a dispatcher within the town of Westford, and I'm sure the family of this individual appreciates her work as well. So congratulations again, Rebecca.
That's great.
I'll keep going.
Sure, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Sticking with the congratulations, I know Tom Clay was recognized at WCAT on Thursday of last week for his service on the WCAT board, so just wanted to recognize you again this evening. I apologize I wasn't able to get there. I think some other members may have been there and other members of the community, so congratulations.
Thank you.
And today is actually Westford's birthday. It is our 296th birthday, so we're getting close to that 300th anniversary, so happy birthday to the town of Westford. And as part of that, today we held our annual employee cookout, which we celebrated all of our employees that were able to make it, as well as those who were not. We had a bit of fun with some trivia. Thank you to Westford Remembers for donating some gift cards and some employees for bringing some scratch tickets. It was really fun to participate in trivia with everyone today. And also thank you to Kimball Farms for donating the ice cream. That's always a big hit with the employees to celebrate with hot dogs, hamburgers, ice cream, and trivia. And then finally, I am hosting my first ever, I'll call it Tea with the Town Manager on Thursday, September 26th. So this Thursday at 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. at Rodenbush. So I'll be serving tea and coffee for those who'd like that, and just an informal hour drop-in period for those who may wish to stop by and talk about whatever matters they would like. And then feeling out the cadence, whether it be every other month or once a quarter or whatever that may be. So wanted to just introduce that to the community this evening. It's also in the newsletter and on the news flash on the website.
Where are you going to be in Rodenbush? Are you going to be up with the rec?
I'll be in room 202. We'll have a sign at the front, and it's right off the kitchen. It's a nice cozy space.
I will mention that Chris and I learned today that our very own Valerie Young has been recognized by the Massachusetts Association of School Committees for excellent service, and I think she's being recognized for outstanding service sort of for the whole region. So congratulations to her, and well-deserved for all of her hard work on the school committee. Any other updates from the board tonight? Okay, any updates or open forum issues from the public? Anything online?
I don't see anything online.
Okay. We'll move to our 7:05 item, which is the consent agenda. So I'll go ahead and go through the list and then request a motion to approve. For road and street closures, we have an event, the Fairview Drive Block Party. The applicant is Anthony Bernardin. The date is October 4th, 2025. Time is 2 to 8 p.m. Location is 17 Fairview Drive to 10 Fairview Drive, Dartmouth Lane. We also have the Westford, a banner request for the Westford Sporting Goods Sale. The applicant is Westford Boy Scouts Troop 159, Malak Bashar Shah. The dates are Friday, October 31st, 2025 to Monday, November 10th, 2025. Location is First Parish Church. For town common requests, we have an event to collect signatures for the 2026 ballot petitions. The applicant is Tony DeLeo of the Republican Town Committee. The date is Saturday, September 27th, 2025. The time is 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We also have a request for the town tree lighting. The applicant is the Westford Girl Scouts, Kira Ernst. The date is Sunday, November 30th, 2025. The time is 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. We also have a request for the tribute to the life of Charlie Kirk. The applicant is the Westford Republican Town Committee, Kathy Lynch. Date is Thursday, September 25th, 2025. The time is 3 to 6 p.m. And we have two special license requests. One is for Oktoberfest. The applicant is Good Pickin' Farm, Sandra Habe. The date is Saturday, October 4th, 2025. The time is 3 to 7 p.m. Location is 5 and 6 Gould Road. We also have the Monster Mash Farm Bash. The applicant is Good Pickin' Farm. Sandra Habe is the requester. And the date is Saturday, October 18th, 2025. The time is 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Location is 5 and 6 Gould Road. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions?
A correction on this?
Sure. Could you come to the mic, please, Kathy?
Kathy Lynch at Rush Road. I do believe that the signature collection is for 10 to 12 p.m. So I think that there's an error there. I don't want people to go there and no one's there to help them sign ballot petitions.
Okay.
So let's confirm that. And then the tribute for the life of Charlie Kirk, we're asking for 3 to 6, but the event really starts at 4. So I just want you to be aware of that as well, just so we can set up and then tear down, clean up. And we invite anyone who wants to honor the life of Charlie Kirk.
Okay,
Okay.
great. Thanks, Kathy, for clarifying. Let's see, so should we consider that as amended? Or should we just go ahead and approve the?
I think we approve the whole time and
The
then we
open
can-
window and
yeah.
then, okay. Okay, so if you're listening in, thank you for the clarification from Kathy Lynch about the specific times of the events, but we're going to go ahead and proceed with the approval as written in the agenda. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you for that. We are now up to our public hearing. There are 707 items, so entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor? Sean?
Aye.
Noel?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. First up is the National Grid for joint and identical locations. Do we have a rep here? Thank you so much. For National Grid. If you could go ahead and just say your name, that'd be terrific.
Vazna Ang, 1101 Turnpike Street here for National Grid.
Okay, thank you so much. So you can see in the agenda what's being proposed. If you'd like to just give Vaz, if you'd just like to give a brief description of what this first one is, and we'll answer any questions that people have.
Yeah, National Grid is seeking the town's petition approval to install 2 new poles in the public way in order to assist with the culvert rebuild on Acton Road.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks, Mike, for bringing the image up on the screen. Any questions on this one?
We have any feedback from DPW engineering?
Yes, Kyle Fox is here from DPW. My understanding is that he has no concerns or questions with this. Correct, Kyle?
Correct.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks for the clarification. Okay. So on this first one, I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then the 710, let's see.
You wanna close this
Do I
one?
close and reopen? Okay.
Because they're two public hearings.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to close the 707, agenda item number 6, public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, Sean?
Aye.
Noel?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
And I'm also an aye. I'll now entertain a motion to open the 710 public hearing as listed in our agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, Chris?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Noel?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay, we are now in our 710 public hearing. And again, welcome Vaz.
Vazna Ang, 1101 Turnpike Street here for National Grid. National Grid is seeking the town's petition approval to install 1 pole 2-50 in the public way on Carlisle Road to make system reliability upgrades. It's also noted that the town would like National Grid to make sure to not touch the trees on the town property.
Okay. Excellent. And same question that Chris had before. Any concerns from Kyle Fox?
So the concern was just brought up by the applicant. He states that public shade trees are located in the vicinity of the proposed pole and are not to be pruned, trimmed, removed, or damaged during the installation of the pole and subsequent wiring.
Great. It sounds like that request has been received. Any questions from the board about this one? Okay, there being none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I'll now entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, Sean?
Aye.
Noel?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
And I'm also an aye. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item up tonight is the 715, to review and act on the recommendations for consideration from the Pedestrian Safety Committee. Let's see, welcome, who will be,
I think Tom Hinkle is here from the Pedestrian Safety Committee.
okay. Great, welcome, Tom. All right. That'd be great if you could just give us a brief overview of what's being proposed.
Sure. Do you need my name and all that, or you know?
Yeah, that'd be great.
So, Tom
Name
Hinkle,
and
10
address,
Maple
yeah.
Road, Chair of Pedestrian Safety. So I think it's probably helpful if we do one at a time, if
Yeah,
that
that'd
makes
be
sense. So if we start with the crossing at Kersey and Fairview. So the overview, this came to us from a resident, initially came to me and to DPW in an email, the request to put a crosswalk there. And I think that the request had actually, resident had first brought this up years ago and was told there was no curb ramp at the end of the Kersey Road sidewalk. As you may recall, when we repaved Kersey Road, they redid the sidewalk there. So now there's a fully ADA compliant sidewalk on Kersey with a curb ramp leading into Main Street. I was a little surprised to go there and look and see that, you know, if you're following the curb, it just leads you right into the road right now, but there is no crosswalk there. So in that email thread and our initial conversations, DPW brought up some general concerns about adding crosswalks to rural roads. So we brought that to pedestrian safety. We looked at that road. Main Street has a number of crosswalks already very nearby to that one. So to me, it certainly, well, to the committee, it seems like the drivers do expect to see a crosswalk there where we expect a crossing. And then Fairview and Kersey are both roads with a fair amount of pedestrian traffic, and connecting those two neighborhoods makes a natural desire line for pedestrians who are trying to get out for a walk. So to us, it made sense, given the other crosswalks that are already on that road, to add a crosswalk there. I guess I would add, we often have like a very long process for pedestrian safety projects where, you know, we'd have a discussion, a public hearing, a study, and onward. In this case, I think we really believe we're just looking at a crosswalk. So obviously the high visibility signs to warn drivers that there's a crossing, and then striping the road. So we saw this as a quicker request to come back and ask the town to do this. DPW believes that we need an ADA compliant ramp on both sides of the road. I think the committee doesn't feel strongly on that. From our conversations, it seemed like that might be something we can do in-house if it's necessary to do that. I guess my view is there's already a ramp guiding traffic into the road, and nothing to tell motorists that we're pointing people into the road. So we would like to see a crosswalk go in there, and I think hopefully that's something that we can do within the town's DPW's capacity already. So.
Thanks, Tom.
Yep.
Any comment or feedback we should hear from DPW on this one?
Yes, Kyle Fox is here if you'd like to hear from him.
Okay.
He did submit a memo to the board that's in your packet.
Right.
Good evening, board members. Kyle Fox, Public Works Director. So as Tom stated, we have had some numerous spirited conversations on this topic. And in the end, although we truly believe it may be a good location for a crosswalk in the future, at this time we can't support it due to the lack of ADA facilities on the Fairview side of Main Street. Particularly, we don't have the luxury of ignoring ADA rules, both federal and state, and federal standards and state standards require crosswalks to have accessible entries at both sides of the crosswalk. So for that reason, at this time, we don't recommend it unless and until the Fairview side can also be upgraded to be ADA compliant.
And what would be involved in doing that, Kyle?
So it would involve obviously some excavation, digging out the ground and putting in the concrete tip-up ramp with the truncated dome plate. That's those little plates at crosswalks that have the little dimples. Not a terribly difficult project to do, and one that we may be able to squeeze into our current operating budget. We'd probably know more in the spring if we'd be able to accommodate that, depending how other things happen this fiscal year. But it is certainly something within our skill set. We just did similar projects. You may recall on the Groton Road sidewalk extension that we did, and the Jack Walsh Texas Road sidewalk that we just completed. So these are projects that we're certainly capable of. We just need to be cognizant of funding to be able to accomplish it.
Okay. Questions or comments for either
Yeah, I got a
Tom or
question. Does that
Kyle?
lead to another sidewalk on the other side?
So it does. Additionally, and I don't think this should hold us up from accomplishing the goal of the Ped Safety Committee, but the sidewalk on Fairview Drive is also not ADA compliant. And at some point, we'll have to upgrade the entire sidewalk to be fully in conformance with ADA requirements. But for the crosswalk itself, I don't believe we would need to fix the sidewalk at this point.
Yep, John?
Briefly, Tom, how did this come to you? Was it a particular resident, or was there? Yeah. Okay. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
So Tom,
Go ahead.
just a
Yeah,
point of
Chris.
clarification. So Kyle, I mean, it sounded less than definitive in terms of what we're doing in the spring. So can we nail that down a little bit more? Like what, I would want to have a little bit of assurance that this project was going to go forward if you were able to do this curb ramp. And you're saying that what's going to hold us up on that?
So at this point, we're just a little over 2 months into the fiscal year. And, you know, we don't know what's going to happen the rest of the year. In fiscal '25, we did have really almost no money left in the highway budget. So with the cuts from, you know, the last two budget cycles, the budget is indeed really tight. The two sidewalk projects I just mentioned, Jack Walsh and Groton Road, they were both supported through capital appropriations, which assisted our budget in being able to do it. So the best I can offer you tonight is I think we'll be able to accommodate it, but I can't promise it tonight.
okay, so the sequence of events that you propose is that we basically complete that likely sometime in the spring and then move forward with in a separate decision with the crosswalk.
Correct. They would be simultaneous.
Yeah.
We would upgrade the ramp and then immediately paint the crosswalk.
Okay. Any members of the public who wish to speak? Okay.
Andrea Parent, Suite 21 Kersey Circle. I am the person who brought this forward. I brought this forward in May, I believe, to the first to Tom and then to the Pedestrian Safety Committee that met in June. For those of you who don't know, Fairview and Kersey Circle are two enclosed neighborhoods, and we walk back and forth between those two neighborhoods all the time. You see people walking, you see families walking, you see people walking their pets, and we stand at the corner of Fairview and Kersey, and we watch the cars go by on Main Street until finally it's clear for us to cross. The reason that a crosswalk wasn't put in at that end of Kersey Circle when the other three were put in on Main Street was because there was no sidewalk on Kersey Circle at that time. Since then, there's a sidewalk on Kersey Circle. It does have the ramp that Kyle is speaking of. And then you cross to Fairview where there is a sidewalk that nobody uses because it is in total disrepair. So I can't imagine when there'll be enough funding for that sidewalk to be repaired, and quite frankly, half the sidewalks in Westford are in total disrepair and are not ADA compliant anyway. When you cross the street to Fairview, you actually go flat across the road, and when you get to Fairview, it's completely flat. So you walk across, it's completely flat, and all of us walk in the street because you can't walk on the sidewalk, and no stroller or whomever is going to use the sidewalk. So I guess I don't understand why I have to wait to have a ramp put in to a street that really doesn't need it because it's completely flat, to a sidewalk that's in total disrepair and that is not ADA compliant. That being said, I started this in May. I really thought this was going to be a very simple project. All I wanted was a crosswalk. All I wanted was white paint on the road and a crosswalk and a sign. And now I'm being told I have to wait at least till next spring, and I'm not even getting assurances that it will be next spring. Frankly, I really think if we are a community that is encouraging people to walk, to bike, to be healthy, to be safe, then we need to put in the mechanisms that encourage that. And in this instance, that means a sidewalk. So if it's not going to be done this fall, which it sounds like it won't be, I really want assurances that this is going to be done next spring so the folks that, all of us who walk back and forth, can have a safe crosswalk and a safe way to get across. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have some people online that we'll get to, but just a clarifying question for me, Kyle, is it your position that if we went ahead and put in the crosswalk with the Fairview side as it is now, we'd be in violation of the law or of some statute? Like, are we?
Yes.
We're acting outside what's legal?
I believe so. I mean, I don't know that there's a sidewalk police that is going to get us.
Yeah.
The biggest fear is the liability side of it. I think there's two pieces to that liability. One is, there's a number of foundations and folks that look for opportunities to go after towns for various ADA things, and this could trigger that. Where we make an improvement, but we don't fully make the improvement, so it's not fully accessible. It certainly welcomes the opportunity for someone to file a lawsuit. The second piece would be, and probably the part that scares me even more, is should somebody in a wheelchair or other less accessible position get to the Fairview sidewalk, try to climb the curb ramp to get up to the sidewalk and either fall over or tip over. I think that would be another possibility for liability to the town. And, part of my charge that you guys have for me is to limit liability to the town, so.
Yeah. John?
How much would you estimate this cost?
Probably between $2,000 and $5,000.
Okay. Now, that's an interesting intersection, because they're not, the two roads are not aligned. You actually Kersey Circle, and then you gotta go over here, if you're driving. Isn't that a cut-through street to Tadlock?
So it does connect to Tadmuck Road.
And I know we looked at that earlier because somebody wanted to put speed bumps in there, right? There was something came before this board, I think, one time in the last couple of years, wanted to put speed bumps in there because of the speed that people go through there. They use it as a cut-through. So does that complicate the intersection that you're going to create? Because and the other question is that sidewalk on Fairview, is that a raised sidewalk?
It is.
It's not just flat with the road is raised?
Yeah, it is. I don't think the geometry between Fairview, Main Street, and Kersey is a big challenge. It is a reasonable place for a crosswalk.
Yeah, because people are always anxious to turn one way or the other, and sometimes they don't stop.
Yeah, and where Fairview connects to Tadmuck goes up to Main Street, there is a crosswalk and an accessible entrance on that sidewalk. So there is an opportunity for residents to safely cross at this point. It is a little inconvenient, no doubt.
I think some other members of the public online.
So Barbara Terrio writes, this is a comment, not a question. I would appreciate the safety of the crosswalk on Main Street at Kersey Circle and Fairview Drive. Several of us cross there. It's hard to see cars coming over the hill. People with baby strollers, people with dogs, kids with bicycles all use that crossing. Thank you for your considering of the crosswalk.
Okay. Yep. Chris?
So one comment, and I think Tom brought it up, and Kyle, you sort of just reinforced it with your statement earlier, is that when we improved Kersey's sidewalk, we essentially created an unsafe condition. To your point you made, wouldn't we be making it safer if we actually have the crosswalk at that point? It's, in my mind, better that we have the crosswalk and one ramp than one ramp, no crosswalk. Ultimately, it would be great if we had ramps on both sides, and if we get there and the budget allows, go ahead, put the ramp in, but it sounds like we should put the crosswalk in immediately to satisfy the risk factors you've made apparent with the fact that we have a curb compliant sidewalk on one side of the road.
I guess I can't answer that question, Chris.
It's a tough one.
Yeah. I mean, I can, according to MassDOT procedures for speed zoning on state highways and municipal roads, it's a 2021 publication. And the MUTCD crosswalks must be installed in accordance with engineering judgment and must include ADA compliant curb ramps on both ends. As a registered professional engineer in the state of Massachusetts, I struggle with that. And common sense, although real, can't come into play on my judgment on that.
Okay, so on this one, what's the pleasure of the board? We could recommend the installation of the crosswalk happen at such time that the project can be fully ADA compliant. We could, I'm not sure what other options are. We could say no, we could say yes as it is.
Well, so one is, and I'd be happy to make a motion to the effect that we put the crosswalk in as soon as possible, preferably, with this fall season. We can't do that as soon as possible in the spring, and we follow up with the curb ramp as soon as possible, budget allowing. That would be my motion.
So I do see Andrew. I guess I'm wondering whether we can, I guess I as a voter would wonder whether we can direct town staff to do something that is against what the guidance, what the regulations provide.
We're already in non-compliance right now, so why not fix that?
How are
to some
we
degree?
in non-compliance?
Because we have a sidewalk with a curb ramp with no crosswalk at the end of it.
If I could address, I guess from a compliance standpoint, I think Kyle's exactly right. The issue of being in compliance is triggered when we make improvements moving forward. So
The improvements that we made moving forward was putting the Kersey Circle sidewalk in.
When was that done?
A few years ago.
a few years ago, so about a year ago, PROAG was actually adopted as an enforceable standard by the federal government under ADA, under Title II. So it actually does put us in a position where we now previously had what they called a best practice, is how they viewed PROAG, which is the public right-of-way accessibility guidelines. When that actually became enforceable law as a standard, we are now required to do that under both federal and state law. So any improvements we make actually have to be ADA compliant. It doesn't speak to what we do with the remainder of the sidewalk on the other side, but we cannot, just like Kyle said, have a crosswalk that leads to a non-compliant ramp because it doesn't provide an egress from the roadway that is compliant. So I would strongly advise you to consider what the town engineer is recommending, because it does put us in a position of basically being non-compliant knowingly.
Okay, at the mic.
So, that being said, my recommendation was that I ask this board to direct the DPW to put the sidewalk in along with the ADA accessible ramp as part of their budgetary process in the spring of 2026, so that we can get this done.
Thank you for your comment.
That would be my suggestion.
Okay, much appreciated.
Real quick, Tom.
Yep.
Kyle, was the 2 to 5 that you suggested, was that inclusive of the sidewalk renovations that were referenced to? Okay.
And that would
So
be.
that would be worst case scenario, total project 2 to 5.
Yeah, and I would note that that's with our crews doing the work, not hiring an
Certainly, yeah.
outside crew to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would be the ramp itself, the paint for the crosswalk, and the signage to sign the
Okay.
crosswalk.
But does that include renovation of the sidewalk, making the sidewalk?
Just the ramp.
So I think what I'm understanding is if we do that and put the ramp on that side, we've engaged in, we should do the sidewalk in addition to that.
Yeah, I don't think it stretches that far. I don't think the crosswalk compels us to upgrade the entire sidewalk, just for the length of it. It just has to be, the reason the sidewalk is not accessible now is it's not wide enough. 4 feet is the minimum sidewalk requirement. Typically, we build 5. It's 2.5 to 3 feet. But the crosswalk triggers the ADA ramp. And by doing that, I think we're in positive ground. And then what triggers the sidewalk repair is if we upgrade Fairview, then we're compelled to upgrade the sidewalk itself. That would be what would trigger the sidewalk repair.
Okay, so it's not gonna trigger a big renovation of the sidewalk all the way
No.
down Fairview?
Correct.
Okay, that's what we were worried about.
Yeah,
So, and 2 to 5 would include any improvements there on the other side,
yes,
on the Fairview side, so, okay.
correct.
Okay, so,
I think it's small money.
okay. So at this point, we could entertain a motion to direct installation of the crosswalk, including the Fairview side ADA compatible solution. We could direct that, or we could direct installation of the sidewalk subject to availability of funds. This is the wish of the board. If anyone wants to make a motion on one of those two.
I think we've got to make it conditional on budget. I mean, there's got to be, we have to have the money there, so I think it make contingent upon fund availability. And look to include it in the budget going forward. I
Well,
mean,
we're already in fiscal '26, so
Yeah.
if we want it to be done before June 30th, it'd have to be constrained in the
Okay,
fiscal
the-
'26 budget, and that perhaps may mean that something else
I was
in the
thinking
$2,000 to
$27,
$5,000 range and staff labor time may be redirected to fiscal '27 or not done at all. Is that correct?
That's correct. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the discomfort of not understanding the trade-off is there. But it's up to the board whether you'd like to make a motion directing that or not.
I think we're in favor of the project. It's a matter of figuring out when.
Right. The question is, do we direct this to bump something else potentially if that trade-off needs to happen? Or whether we sort of let that decision-making process happen in the way that the prioritization happened in the way it normally would. And if it happens, we go with the crosswalk. If it doesn't happen, the crosswalk wouldn't happen until some future cycle. Those are the choices I think we have.
I think that I have faith in Kyle and his department to get this done and to get the other projects that they're shouldering done. So my recommendation is that we move forward with a direction to say, put the sidewalk and the crosswalk and the ADA compliant curb ramps in the spring.
Okay, that's your motion?
That would be my motion.
Okay. Do I have a second? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. And now the second item. Yeah.
May as well
Stick around.
Okay, second item. So Tanya, if you could please explain that one.
Sure. So this one, believe it or not, might be longer. So Hartford Road, to give a little bit of context, Hartford Road connects Crisafulli, Robinson, and WA. I mean, Robinson's not there, but it's just around the corner, right? So fairly high amount of traffic, both among pedestrians, runners, people going to the school, and then it's a relatively low volume road. We did some traffic studies, so Kyle can give us the numbers on how low volume. But I think it feels higher volume to residents because particular times of day, it's quite a busy road, right, driven by WA. So I think going back pretty much to when that road was paved, there's been resident concern about traffic and speed and what we can do about that road. And it's come repeatedly up to Pedestrian Safety Committee. We did a whole process, trying to hear resident concerns, had public meeting, came to this board, recommended town meeting, fund traffic calming measures on that road, which town meeting approved in 2024. So that appropriation happened just as we had a transition to DPW. Kyle was just coming in. And I think we initially were looking at possibly like a speed study. And I had conversations with Kyle where it seemed clear we could do that in-house, which we subsequently did. So that what town meeting funded was traffic calming, which is what the residents have asked for. So then that's sort of left in the air since 2024, what kind of traffic calming would be warranted there. And that's what pedestrian safety's been searching for. So we've considered a number of options and talked with DPW, talked with police, surveyed residents. You'll be surprised to learn residents' top priority is more police presence on their road, which is very frequently residents' top priority. Obviously, there's limited capacity to be on all the roads at all the times. There's a fair amount of resident support for things like speed cushions, but those don't have much support from anyone else, and they have significant challenges in terms of paving and plowing and all of that. What DPW had recommended was that we put in some curve signs at the there's some natural curves on that road where the signs would be warranted according to calculations that I am not qualified to describe, but Kyle can. So I guess pedestrian safety was concerned that if we just put up a couple of slow curve signs, after town meeting had suggested that we fund traffic calming measures, it might feel to residents like we really hadn't done anything to address speeds. So the recommendation that we brought to you, or put in our memo, was that in addition to the curve signs, we put speed feedback signs in. That had seemed like we've put those in on Griffin, and anecdotally they seem pretty successful. When I look, like the National Highway Transit Safety Association, or if I think I got it right, NHTSA, talks about speed feedback signs as they rate it like 5-star effective and $1 sign cost. So among the most effective, least expensive options. And they say meta-analysis of dynamic speed feedback devices found they're effective at reducing speeds across a variety of roadways. They note they're useful at transition zones, curves, and school zones. So Hartford Road has curves. It's approaching a school zone at the end of it. And it's adjacent to a school, although not technically a school zone at the other end of it. So it connects two schools. In addition, so this, we got into the weeds at our last meeting. I guess it turns out the 11th edition of the, he's going to give me the letters, MUTCD, supports putting speed feedback signs with, what are they called, horizontal alignment signs, which are like the yellow slow down signs as opposed to the white regulatory slow down signs, which are the signs that DPW suggested we would install. So we were looking at all of those things and thinking, okay, this would be a cost-effective way to show residents we were doing something. I think most of us anecdotally feel like we slow down when we see those signs, and it makes people aware of a speed. So that was the initial recommendation of the committee. When we put this memo forward, I subsequently met with Kyle. He can tell you in his own words, but he did not support that recommendation. So we had a lengthy committee meeting to see if the committee wanted to amend our recommendation, and there was no motion to do that. So the committee's recommendation stands as it is, and I think, well, you can, I think basically we have heard a lot from residents. We can see this is a compelling case of a road we want to do something at. And I think some of this comes down to our speed studies don't show what we would consider excessive speed. So the 85th percentile speed is near 30 miles an hour, which is the regulatory speed of the road. There are, you know, to us, when we see that there are some cars moving at 40 miles an hour, that's pretty concerning if you're walking or running to school there. But I think from DPW's perspective, that maybe wouldn't warrant it. So that's kind of the impasse we're at. But I think from the pedestrian safety perspective, we still support this.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
Yeah.
And Kyle, do you want to share your?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So it won't surprise anyone in this room that I take an analytical approach to this topic. So I think the town meeting vote was actually in 2023, if I recall.
Oh, did I get it wrong?
No worries. But Tom is exactly right that what went before the town meeting was traffic calming measures. And it did coincide with, that town meeting was in March. I started my employment here in January. So I was relatively new to the town at that point. And sort of got involved a little, but not a lot. since then, I've become more involved. And so at the time of the town meeting, there was no data to support the need one way or the other. Since that time, working with Ped Safety Committee, and since that time, Public Works purchased actually we got it through a grant, which was great, what we call a speed spy unit. It's this little black box that it's fairly inconspicuous, so it doesn't affect driver behavior because people don't see it there. And so it records every vehicle that goes by. It measures the length of the vehicle so we can tell if it's a motorcycle, car, SUV, truck. It's good for finding out percentage of truck traffic on roads. And it measures speed of each of those vehicles. So we undertook 2 different speed studies on this road because of the importance that ped safety is placed on this project. And in both cases, the results were fairly similar. The average speed was about 25 miles an hour. And as Tom stated, not the regulatory speed, statutory.
Oh,
Thank you,
sorry.
Chris. The statutory speed for that road is 30 miles an hour. So the average driver, 50% of the vehicles are driving at or below 25 miles an hour. In the 85th percentile speed, which is a common statistic that us traffic geeks use, is the 85th percentile speed, meaning 85% of drivers drive at this speed or lower, was 30 miles an hour. So exactly the speed limit. So that kind of puts us in the direction of there's really no problem to solve here. But we went further in the analysis. I had reached out to the police department to look at accident data over the past 5 years, because that can be a highly contributing factor. The research they came back with was, in the past 5 years, there's only been 1 accident near it. They did a 50-foot buffer around Hartford Road, the entire length of it. And there was 1 accident, but it was actually in the WA driveway, so it wasn't even on Hartford Road in that time. So again, there's another piece of evidence to suggest there may not be a problem on this road. And then going on from there, we look at the appropriateness of any device we would propose to put on a roadway. And in this case, we looked at the Mass DOT procedures for speed zoning on state highways and municipal roads, that same document I referred to earlier, 2021 version, where they give actual guidance on speed feedback signs. And in that document, they specifically note they're most effective under specific conditions such as school zones with variable speed limits, transition zones where speed limits change, approaches to signalized intersections on high-speed roads, and work zones with unexpected traffic conditions. So none of these are fit with Hartford Road. The document also notes that speed feedback sign effectiveness tends to diminish over time due to the novelty effect. Any sign or traffic control device we put up, instantly it's different as people drive. They're going to see it. They're going to react to it. Over a pretty short period of time, the signs just become blind to people, and particularly when they're not in an area that requires the signage, the tendency is really to become blind to them and ignore them. And we believe that would happen with these. So our recommendation is that we, as Tom noted, put the appropriate curve warning signs, and basically those are the black on yellow diamond signs with the curves, or in this case, because there's some fairly curvy area at the beginning, we'd probably put one of the squiggle signs. And then some of the curves warrant speed placards, and so sometimes you'll see the speed placard under those curve signs. And what that denotes is, again, going back to the MUTCD, if there's a 5 mile an hour difference between the geometry that the curve will support as far as speed and what the speed limit is, it's optional to put those placards. If it's 10 miles difference, meaning in this case, if the curve is a 20-mile-an-hour curve, it's recommended that we put it. And if it's 15 or more, then it's required to put it. So in this case, there's curves that fall in the recommended category of 20-mile-an-hour curves. And I would recommend we put the speed placards with the warning signs. So our recommendation is not to put the speed feedback sign, but to do the upgraded curve signage that's appropriate for the road. And honestly, we're going to do that anyway because it is appropriate for the road.
Okay, thank you, Kyle. Questions from the board? Yeah, Chris?
Just one call out. I think, Tom, you mentioned this, is that, and Kyle, correct me if I'm wrong, that there is this new version of the MUTCD, which it does state that these speed feedback signs are okay to use with horizontal alignment warning signs, but yet the state has not adopted that version of the MUTCD.
Yeah, both things are true. But even if it were adopted, in this case, it still wouldn't be a recommendation for me because speed isn't an issue here. I think the idea behind that is, what immediately comes to mind is where we have the chevron signs on Tingsboro Road by the pond. You know, it's a really sharp curve and it's unexpected. I think that may be a more appropriate location for a speed feedback sign, because there's no evidentiary issue on Hartford Road. It wouldn't be a recommendation from us,
Got it.
even with the newer version.
And just, I'm sorry, that's a follow-up.
Yep.
Just looking at your memo, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 possible signs that you would be putting in?
I don't think we'd put that many. We'd have to take a closer look. This I put together really quickly when Director Cronin was still here.
Got it.
It's kind of a concept plan.
So greater than 2, but less than 7, probably.
Yes. And they would be facing both directions.
Right, with the speed limit, right?
As appropriate. If it's only a 5-mile-an-hour difference, we probably wouldn't put the speed placard. But curves that are 20-mile-an-hour curves or lower, we would recommend putting the speed placard.
Other questions? Yeah, Sean? I'm sorry, did someone come here?
Oh, I
Tom,
was
do you have
just
something to say?
going to ask Summer, just clarify, so the placards you'd put in would be 20 miles an hour or
Right.
less, which I just, from ped safety, we might not really want a placard that suggested you should go 25 or 30 or higher anyway. Just all, if that makes sense.
Kyle, how many speed feedback signs do we have around town?
There's one on Boston Road, there's one on Griffin Road.
2 on Griffin.
Yeah,
And
a
then 1
pair.
on Graniteville.
So it's like a
Yeah, and the one on
Graniteville is
Graniteville by
correct.
Juniper.
I mean, we're not talking that we don't have tens of these, tens or
Right.
100
Yeah.
of these around
So
town.
3 locations.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess that would be my concern is if we start putting this in every area. What I would suggest is going forward, if we're gonna continue to do analyses like these, like figure out what areas merit them based off of what type of traffic you're seeing and how much over the speed limit would merit having a sign like that, right? Because I just ran the numbers and it's like, what? I mean, based off of the amount of traffic that you were seeing across a week, it was 2,000 folks or so, which is, it's like
Less than
12
300 cars a day.
Yeah, it's not a ton of traffic.
Right.
So I guess that would be my concern if we put, and I say this as someone who walks and runs with my children, and one of them, which is in a stroller, which is terrifying in some parts of this town. If we put it everywhere, it's not going to have the same effect.
Correct.
Right? So.
Thanks,
That's
Sean.
a fairly
John?
narrow road too, isn't it?
It is fairly narrow.
So it's kind of self-controlling to some degree.
Yeah, and that was one of the things we've talked about at Pet Safety a number of times when we were debating the merits of either speed bumps, speed humps, speed tables, whichever variety you talk about, is that the road with those curves, it sort of naturally keeps traffic slower, and as does, like you say, the narrowest of the narrow road. And one interesting thing, the more we improve a road, you add a yellow line, traffic's going to go faster. You add the white line, traffic's going to go faster. you clear trees back, traffic is gonna go faster. So all of these perceived safety things that we sometimes do promotes faster traffic because the operator feels more comfortable. And when operators feel more comfortable, they drive, quote, the speed of the road.
Do these measurement, or this equipment determine kind of where the high-speed cars were along the road?
Yeah, so if, in your packet, I put the two studies,
Yeah.
and there's a map on the front page of it that shows, we put the radar in two different locations for the study. We tried to put them on, when we put these out, and when we get requests, which we get quite a few of, we always try and put it where we perceive the highest speed might be, because we want to get the worst-case scenario. So in this case, we did one closer to the curvy area and one in the more straightaway area.
I think we understand this pretty well, and we're getting dangerously off our agenda, so unless there's any other urgent questions, I would entertain a motion, I guess, either to install the curved signs on Hartford Road, full stop. That would follow the recommendation of our Public Works Director, or basically the full motion is written here in our agenda. So in one case, we would be following Kyle's direction, and the other, we'd be following the recommendation of the Pedestrian Safety Committee.
I think I can go along with Kyle's recommendation.
Okay.
I think that the other sign would be more distracting, I think. Where would you put it along that road to have the most impact? When you run that narrow road, come around, you see that flashing sign. I just think.
Okay. So John's motion is to install curb signs on Hartford Road per the recommendation of Kyle Fox, Public Works Director. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you both.
Thank you.
And thank you to the Public Pedestrian Safety Committee for all your work.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you. Thanks, Carl.
Next up is the 7:30 item to request to authorize the town manager to sign a license agreement for the sign located at 1 Russell's Way for the residents of Greystone Estates.
Sure, thank you. And I believe the residents are here this evening. I'll just start the conversation and then allow you to introduce yourselves. You may recall a few months ago, the residents of Greystone Estates came to the board asking for permission to install a sign on town of Westford property under the care and custody of the select board, denoting Greystone Estates. Over the past few months, we've worked with the residents, the building commissioner, the land use department, and town council. So we're now at a point where we have a license agreement that town council is comfortable with. We have a proposal from the Greystone Estates residents that states that if the sign needs to be removed, they would provide us with a escrow amount for that. This is not a homeowners association, so it is just led by the residents, which adds a little bit of complication to that, but they understand that, and they're currently working with the building commissioner on a sign permit as well, because they will need a sign permit for this location. So again, we feel that the license is in pretty good shape. Wanted to just get your feedback. That's why it says authorize me to sign that, so we don't have to come back to you if there are last minute edits or adjustments. And if they were to move forward with a second sign on the conservation parcel, that's a little bit more involved. They would require a special permit with the planning board because it is a second off-premise sign. They would also require a sign permit after that planning board approval, if and when that takes place, and they would require a license with the Conservation Commission because that is a Conservation Commission parcel. So we figured we'd focus on this parcel first as it was a little bit simpler. Again, the residents are here if you'd like to hear from them, but we feel that the paperwork is in pretty good order to move forward if the board still desires to enter into this license.
Why don't we, so thank you for being here, why don't we first go to questions from the board, because we have largely discussed this issue in the past. Any questions or concerns? Yep.
I don't have any questions or concerns. I just want to thank you all for working with the town on this issue and, trying to, get this betterment through. I think it'll be great for your community as well as the greater Westford. And again, thank you for taking the time to go through this. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Chris.
Yep.
Well, my only concern was, sight distances and blocking a view of somebody coming out of Greystone. And has that been satisfied?
Yes,
as far
the
as,
building commissioner has reviewed the location. We've asked the residents to stake out where they'd like the sign, and I don't think anyone's been out there yet, but has it been staked yet? The location?
We've staked it and then worked it through, who came out to visit?
Did Eric Tardif come out, the building
Not
commissioner?
Eric,
Jim, months ago.
Okay.
So we found a spot, and no, there's no blind spot as you pull out of Russell's Way.
Yeah, right.
It sets back behind that interchange, and it is the only thing you would look into behind the sign is trees.
Yeah.
So,
I was just worried about traffic and being able to see it.
and it sets back about 13 feet from the curb.
Okay.
Okay, if there aren't any other questions, I'll entertain a motion to authorize the town manager to sign a lease, license agreement for the sign location of 1 Russell's Way for the residents of Greystone Estates.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you very much.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here
Thank
tonight.
you. And Chris, just as a follow-up, I have been working with Valerie Young and Kyle Fox.
Read my mind.
We
Thank you.
actually are coming up with a solution of signage to be placed on Groton Road rather than on Russell's Way. We feel that that's more appropriate for people coming either way to be directed into Russell's Way. So,
Good. To get the read Miller.
yes, that is correct.
Does that have any implication for?
It does not, has nothing to do with your sign. You're
It's gonna go right on top of your sign.
you're gonna pay for it too.
Lights.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for being here tonight. Next up, we're going to hear from our fire chief and our deputy fire chief about the requests coming up at our special town meeting.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for allowing us to come forward tonight to discuss our apparatus concerns. Chief Mike Dennehy and Deputy Matt Zavatek. So we're kind of in a difficult situation where we've done an evaluation of our trucks, and we found that two of our only two spares are not, they're decommissioned. One of them is a 2010, it's 17 years old. It cost us half our maintenance budget last year, and it spent most of its time on tow trucks. The engine is it continues to have problems. The body is continuing to separate, and it's been advised by the dealer, the mechanic, to get rid of the truck. It's not a safe truck. The other truck, being 31 years old, did its annual pump test and failed. And we're not sure if we can even get parts and whether or not the pump is going to even work when we put the money into it. So during the process, we've evaluated the best solutions, thinking fiscally responsible for the taxpayers, is to purchase a demo, not a demo, but a truck that's coming off the line within 3 months, and ordering another truck to replace engine 4, which is now 7 years old and going to be 11 years old when the new truck comes in. It's a 4-year wait. So I'll let Matt continue talking about how we came up with this stuff.
Thank you, Chief. So engine 2, as you said, has been decommissioned. It's been a money suck on our maintenance its whole life, and it's just not fiscally responsible to sink any more money into it. The engine 5 was a catastrophic failure, and the parts are hard to get, and even if the parts were put into the pump, there's no guarantee that it's going to fix that. So I think we can move on from those two. We've had reserve engines as long as I've been here, and they serve a very important role for us. When our frontline pieces go out for maintenance, they step in. If our pieces go mutual aid to a town and we have callback members come back to the department, they'll staff that reserve piece so that we can keep our numbers of engines consistent in town. And at this point, we don't have any. Engine 4, as you mentioned, for instance, was out for service, and I don't know if any of you guys have had a vehicle service lately, but it was gone for 9 weeks finding a part. That was quite a debacle for us, but it was an eye-opener. That this is an emergency for us, and that's why we feel it should go on the special town meeting this fall. 1,500 days is the estimate for a truck if you order it today, which is wild to think of. But the reason why we're imploring to order a second truck now is that is past the 10-year recommendation for a frontline piece for engine 4. So it'll be 1.5 years-ish after its 10-year mark. The reason why we feel it's important for that to be on the fall town meeting as well is that there will be 2 price increases potentially from now until the spring town meeting, which could raise the price as much as $70,000 to $100,000. So by ordering now, it locks in the price. It's not due, obviously, until the truck's delivered, so there's no cost up front on that truck, but its potential for saving is quite a bit of money.
Okay, thank you for that overview. Questions yet, Chris?
I have two, is that all right?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So the first question I have is, can you explain sort of the difference between this trucks that you need to spend, years and years to wait for, and then this truck that you can just snatch off the line?
Absolutely.
Well, what are we sacrificing there?
So what we're sacrificing is the layout of the truck and materials of the construction of the truck. So in an area that has a lot of salt on the roads in the wintertime, it likes to eat away at your truck. So what we've kind of standardized and had very good luck with longevity-wise is stainless steel trucks. So the body is made out of stainless steel, and the cabs of the ones that we've been ordering, custom trucks, are also made out of stainless steel. The frames have a extra coating on them as well to prevent rust on the frame, and many of the other components have extra housings to prevent the corrosion that happens. So the truck that we'd be getting off the line is an aluminum body and an aluminum cab. It's also reflected in the cheaper price of that. And then the layout of it is not what our standard layout is. So what we tried to do painstakingly over the last 3 or 4 engines we've ordered is make them as similar as possible. So when they get shuffled around, or when our members get shuffled around and they hop into one of these trucks, they don't have to think about, oh, wait a minute, this thing is over there and that thing's over there. And you kind of have an immediate recall throughout the fleet. So those are two of the major. I can go on all night about differences, but
those are two very good reasons.
Hope that answers your question.
It does.
Yeah, and we have immediate need now for an engine, so that's why we've been looking at the option of buying one now.
Right.
Is because that would fill the void of not having a spare engine to put into place when one of the other front lines go out.
Of course. So that rolls into my second question. So with this one that you're purchasing, would that become a front line, and then one of the older ones be your reserve, or is this just going to be positioned as a reserve vehicle?
It's an option we could do. Right now, we're just trying to get it into play.
Okay.
Engine one, as we said, is 11 years old.
Right.
It's tired. So obviously, in my opinion, engine one would be the first one down the road to get sold out. Because engine four would be a newer truck, this new truck, but these are all things we have to decide once we get the truck. We gotta determine if the truck actually fits the role that engine one does.
Yeah, to be fair, we're not guaranteed any truck until we have the money in hand to say we want to buy a truck. So we can't really answer the questions because it'll depend slightly on what we end up with if we're approved to order one.
And much like Matt said, the trucks we've been ordering, we're ordering similar to like the ambulance. When we order an ambulance, the ambulance, it doesn't matter what ambulance goes into play. The equipment's all in the same place. So we're trying to move that way with the engines as well.
Sure, makes sense.
Other questions from the board? Anything from the discussion with capital that we should be aware of?
No, the capital committee voted to recommend both of these purchases unanimously.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you for coming and helping us.
Finance committee will be reviewing this on Thursday evening in there.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you, Chief and Deputy Chief, for helping us better understand this. We
Thank you
really
for allowing us
Thank
the
you.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is our 7:55 item. Back, Kyle, you're back. Welcome back, Kyle. Talking about stormwater utility rate.
We needed a tree or something in this one to get all three of his caps. Tree warden, stormwater, and DPW.
No trees tonight, please.
Wow. Trifecta.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So yeah, I'm back here tonight following our meeting on May 27th, where Business Manager Gulshan Kumar did a fairly thorough presentation. So hoping we can remember most of that, and I don't have to repeat much of it. But
You can text us.
basically, what we're requesting tonight is a recommendation that we had at that May 27th meeting, which is to increase the stormwater fee by 8% for fiscal year '27. And I'll go into a few little details why we're asking for that. And there's a couple other questions that the board had asked us to follow up on, so I'll touch on those as well. So the 8% rate increase, and first and foremost, it sounds like a lot. What we're talking about is $6 on the equivalent residential unit, and I'll get into that a little more in a moment. But yeah, so we are suggesting the 8% increase. We came to that. We did a whole bunch of math on a spreadsheet that really projected 15 years ahead of where we think the fund balance for the stormwater utility fund would be year after year, knowing what revenues we were taking in and what expenditures we expected to have, both operating expenditures and capital expenditures. Similar, for the various culvert projects. We just did 2 last year. We've got 2 more that we're currently in design and will go out to bid this winter. And then we have more that are in the pipeline. In addition, recently we've had 2 pieces of bad news. The Colonial Drive culvert has failed or is in the process of failing. So we're going to have an article on special town meeting to get appropriation to fix that. That one's really critical because of it's a dead-end cul-de-sac road, and should that culvert fail and need to be closed, it would strand 12 residents. So that's obviously a priority. And then last week, Mass DOT bridge inspectors are in town, and they were inspecting it's called a bridge, but it's really 2 big metal covered pipes adjacent to it, which fits the definition of a bridge in MassDOT world. But that failed and resulted in an immediate closure of Old Homestead Road. So we'll be hearing more about that hopefully at Springtown meeting. It doesn't rise to the emergency level that Colonial does because there are other modes of egress from that location. So in that forecast that we had done, one of the things we predicted was that at the end of fiscal 25, we would have a fund balance of about just over $2 million. Looking at the actual fund balance, we're slightly less than that, about 1.9 million. So we were a little zealous in our projection. But even with that, we're not asking for a bigger rate increase than we had mentioned in May. We're still looking for the 8%. Touching on ERU, so again, that stands for equivalent residential unit, and that's the way we assess the fee to all of our various properties. And basically, one ERU currently is billed at $75, and that's our average property. Bigger properties with more impervious area are charged more ERUs. Those with less impervious area are charged less ERUs. And so by comparison, on the residential side of our customers, 50% of our residential customers would experience a $6 increase in their stormwater bill for the year. 90% would see a $12 increase or less, I should have said before. And the average increase is $6.66. On the commercial side, the 50th percentile increase would be $24. 90th percentile, and again, meaning 90% of our commercial customers would pay $210 more or less than that. And the average increase for our commercial customers are $87.24. So that's the magnitude of what this 8% represents. Another question the board had asked was about liens. How many people weren't paying the bills? So we did some analysis on that, and it was pretty consistent in fiscal year 23 and 24, where we had 153 and 156 lien notices that we put out of all our customers. That equates to about 2% of our customer base. By the same account, our total amount of revenue that we're still have outstanding for 23, it's just over 19,000, and 24, it's about 24,000. And again, that's about 2%, which is a much better ratio than what was predicted when the stormwater utility was being talked about. As I understand it, it was about 92% payment rate is what we sort of expected, and we're at 98%. So that's really good news. Some of the reasons that Goshen received when he tried to probe what's in that 2%, a lot of it was they just thought they had paid it. We've always sent it out as two bills, and that's been confusing. So some people frankly just thought they had paid it. Others, there's a handful of accounts that thought that, you know, the stormwater utility never should have been implemented. And they've said, you know, until it shows up on their property tax bill, they're just not gonna pay it.
Okay.
So hopefully those answer your questions there. And then finally, one of our other recommendations, which sort of addresses that point I just made a moment ago about forgetting to pay. One of our recommendations was to move to single billing for the fiscal year. So we have implemented that. We've sent postcards, you probably saw them, announcing that this year we are moving to single billing for fiscal '26. The bills should be out around October, so fairly soon. We are going to give an extended period of time to make the payments, 60 days instead of 30 days, to allow for that confusion. And then our plan moving forward is to bump that up to closer to the July 1 time to coincide more with the fiscal year, and continue with the single billing for the year, which saves money for the program in terms of staff time, consultant time to do the mailings and reconciliations. So those are our recommendations and where we've been since May. And again, I ask you for your vote to increase for fiscal '27 the rate for the stormwater by 8%.
Okay. Thanks, Kyle. Thanks for that, and thanks for the earlier presentation in May. Any questions for Kyle? Yep, John?
Okay, why now?
So again, we mapped out kind of a 15-year look ahead, and with the with the maturing program, last year we started our first two capital projects. So those bonds are going to start to hit the fund, and every year we delay at this point, it's going to put the fund in a more perilous condition to catch up. So we think now is the right time, because we had presented, if you recall, we had a band of like minimum fund balance and recommended fund balance, and our projection kind of keeps us towards the minimum fund balance, and we're already there. So we could dip down below, but we think it would be better for the fund and for the town, especially with all of the needs we have townwide, for these metal culverts to act now.
What's the 8% represent as far as total budget concerned?
Well, you stumped me, John. I don't have that off the top of my head. I apologize.
Okay. All right. I know when we started this thing out, it was, does that affect the amount of the general fund that goes into this? Because there for a while, I think we were talking about, what, $600,000 a year?
Right.
General fund, and $600,000 a year from the stormwater enterprise. Wasn't that the original, when we started this thing?
So 600,000 is still proposed from the general fund budget each year. And that was to cover the minimum cost that the town was already supplying.
And that's still there.
That is still there in our
I was
projections.
just trying to figure out what the fee's gonna get. I mean, it's not much money. It's just kind of, to some people, it's just the idea.
Oh, for sure. I totally understand that. Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the rate increase for stormwater utility.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay, thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle.
Next up, Mike, you're going to take us through pay-as-you-throw update and some recommendations.
I am, and I appreciate Kyle getting us back on track. I'm going to try to be as quick as I can with this, and I may shorten things just a little bit, Chris. I'm going to try. I've actually set myself a timer. But let me pull my slides up here. So I would like to talk some trash with you guys and tell you about what we've been doing with our studies and our progress towards our pay-as-you-throw and our waste reduction planning. So I appreciate the brief window you've given me tonight. I'll try to, like I said, be relatively quick through this. We'll be going just very, very briefly, talking about how this ties into our strategic plan. I did think it was important to give you an update on all of the changes and the impacts that happened when we changed and began enforcement of the policies that you had passed previously, as well as the changes we've seen with our new hauler. I'll give you a quick comparison of kind of where Westford is right now, how we compare with our other towns, present options that basically build off the presentation I gave you last November, as well as talk about how those options might impact our residents and also the town goals. I do have a couple other recommendations that we'll be making in advance of the overall waste reduction plan, things that we know we probably need to deal with now. And then just a very quick recap of the direction that I need from this body so that we know exactly which direction we want to move forward. And then take whatever questions, and of course, if you have questions along the way, please feel free to interrupt. But just real quick, this is part of our strategic plan. This is how we're trying to align this particular activity up through the outcome area, down to a more specific strategy, and then into the individual actions. So you'll start seeing this as a theme when we bring new things to you, so you understand how this fits into our strategic plan. So what we're talking about really today is just the implementation of pay-as-you-throw and how we're going to recommend moving that forward if you choose. So looking at our trends over the last year and a half, we had a number of existing policies that when we switched haulers and we went back and we looked at everything, we reaffirmed and we clarified what those policies would be and how they would work in the collection contract with the new hauler. The biggest thing was being very, very clear and making sure we were enforcing around our previously established limits. So that 96 gallon per household, 3 container maximum that each household would have. We've been enforcing that since. It took about 5 or 6 months for us to actually get to good enforcement on that, but that is being enforced now. You also approved changes to the bulk waste policy. 2 big pieces here. One is you changed the amount of the sticker that the town sold for basically small things, a chair, something burnable under 50 pounds that could be collected with the regular curbside collection. Everything else we shifted out of our collection, and we shifted that to the hauler. They set the fees, they set the appointments, they pick them up in separate trucks. While we lost the revenue from that activity, which previously had been $5 for a couch, we also lost the tonnage. So we lost the disposal cost, so we don't have any costs associated with that. It's completely independent. That could be one of the big drivers in our reduction in tonnage that we have seen to date. The hauler has done a pretty good job on their enforcement. We get tag reports regularly from them. For the most part, people have adapted to it. We're not seeing a lot of massive piles of stuff out anymore. There's a little bit on the barrel sizes and stuff like that, but by and large, I would say our enforcement is doing quite well, and we've seen the impact of that in our tonnages. We've also been doing quite a bit of outreach. We did it when we changed the program, and we've done it since to make sure people really have a good understanding of what those changes were as of July 1, 24, when we moved into the new contract. So what has it done? So this is just a quick look at our tonnage since we began. So really the start of the second column, FY25, excuse me, the third column, was when we immediately began with the new hauler and when we began with the new enforcement and the new bulky waste changes. So, I mean, right out of the gate, we were almost 17% down on our tonnage. Dan and I were probably a little nervous that was an anomaly, and we're tight-lipped about it, but we've seen that trend continue. Other than 1 month that we actually had an increase, and that's you'll see that, interestingly enough, in the warrant for an approval of a prior year expense. That was that October number that we challenged. We have had significant and sustained decreases to the tune of almost 1,000 tons a year. So that is a significant decrease, 14% overall. We've ticked up a little bit since this fiscal year started, but so far we're sitting around 3%, which lines up with what our projections have been year over year in terms of tonnage increase. So on the recycling side, we have also seen a little bit of a decrease, but I'm not concerned about that, primarily because of this next table that really shows you what the recycling is as a total. That's the metric that matters to me, is are we recycling more as a percentage of our overall waste? Now, some of this is probably reflective of that change in denominator, the overall trash tonnage. But again, we're seeing a total amount of waste entering the waste stream down about 12% since we began with the new contract. So all in all, it's good news. I would point out two things. One is I am looking at this right now from a fiscal year perspective. Most of the metrics and the data that we will present, especially when we're looking at comparable communities, is going to be calendar year. That matters right now because when we compare ourselves to other towns, we have to rely on the state data, which is by a calendar year. Well, looking at FY or calendar 24, we don't have a full year of data with the new hauler. So I did look very specifically at 1 year with the new hauler for FY 25, and we're down to 0.73 tons per household, which is below the state average right now. So we're actually doing much better than we thought, and that's influenced, I think, in a large part, the methodical approach we've tried to take to pay-as-you-throw and not just jumping into something. We have the time to be cautious and find the program that works right for us. So any questions on kind of where we are now and what's happened up to this point? Because I'll move us forward. So how do we compare right now? So what we try to look at is really, the entire state. We look at our market basket towns, and then we're looking at curbside towns that do curbside pay-as-you-throw programs. So you can see, based on the calendar year data, the top is that curbside all across the state. Our market basket towns, those 17 communities that have curbside, as well as everybody that has pay-as-you-throw programs curbside across the state. And then we compare that with where we are in Westford, and that tries to give us an idea of where we want to be. And based on our 25 budget, what we would have saved in tipping costs if we'd have been at those numbers. And that it's important to think about this in terms of the disposal costs. That's really the only variable component we have in our waste. That's the only thing we can really impact, is how much goes to the incineration, the waste to energy plant in Haverhill. That's what we have to focus on when we start looking at our new program. So I did also put up the budget task force report number. When we looked at this in 21, when those numbers were used to really look at pay-as-you-throw the first time, we had probably some inaccurate numbers in there based on our household count. So we've really been looking at the foundational data that goes into all this and correcting all those things to make sure we really are understanding where Westford is and where Westford wants to go. So big dip since that 21 number, but a lot of it is really reflective of the math that underlies those numbers. So what's the rest of Massachusetts doing right now? So of those communities that are doing pay-as-you-throw, the pink is everybody that's running a drop-off. So pay-as-you-throw works very, very well when you're doing drop-off because it's transfer station. It's just really easy for people to go drop things off. They can see the bag. It's easy to move in. It's easy to enforce. Less doing curbside, but we're still at 49, and this is a little bit different than the state data that you'll see on some other tabs because this is updated through July of this current year. And then a handful of towns do both. So when we really try to break down those 143 municipalities that have pay-as-you-throw, we start looking at curbside with and without drop-off. That's not going to be us. We're not going to have that kind of an opportunity. Looking at ones that have pay-as-you-throw only are sitting at that 0.59 tons. That's really kind of the target number that a lot of communities look at when they look at moving to a pay-as-you-throw. But I think you have to discount that for the communities that have bags. That is absolutely far and away the most effective way to reduce tonnage is using bags, but that's also something that the industry is moving strongly away from because of the realities of staffing trucks with 2 people, the time it takes to collect, getting out of a truck, grabbing a bag, the enforcement around it, and everything else. So we also really looked at ones that had hybrid systems, which has been very popular in the last several years as people recognize that the reality of garbage collection now, single operator trucks. We keyed in really heavily on these towns that have these hybrid systems that have carts and bags or carts and some way to deal with overflow that's monetized. So what we tried to do was go back to what we had presented to you originally and say, what are the criteria under which we want to evaluate the different options to try to find what's going to be the best fit for us. And really, the goal you had given us and the goal the community has given us is number one is waste reduction. We've got to get our total tonnage down, not just for cost, but for sustainability reasons. The second part is big in terms of where the market is. Improving service delivery, moving to automated trucks is a absolutely critical step that we have to take, as well as we've got to have a way for people to get rid of excess stuff and not just stick to a hard limit on what we have on a household limit. We've got to have a way that people can dispose of things because they don't have access to a transfer station. How do we look at this to influence housing and economic development, increase cost parity across our different households, and make sure that commercial and multifamily are not subsidizing the collection of single-family residential as they are now. And then lastly, as a revenue tool, this has not been the focus for this activity simply because we aren't in the dire position that we thought we were with trash. We can take a more reasoned approach, but we do want the system that we come up with to have a way to charge for people that dispose in excess of what our average amounts are. So we really wanted a system where the basic service is still covered under the levy and we charge fees over that amount. So if you're over, you simply pay for that privilege and you cover your costs. So those were really the driving factors. So we ruled out bags. The market is not going that way. It is getting increasingly expensive and difficult to find vendors that will pick up the bags. Higher collection costs. It's almost impossible to do something without a lot of staff effort that also lets us have an in-levy portion of that. It's already covered under taxes. And again, it doesn't fit with Westford. Having bags on the curbside, we have a lot of animals, we're a rural area. We really needed to look at carts. We looked at variable size carts. We don't have the staff, we don't have the complexity to be able to manage that, quite frankly. That is a very staff-intensive exercise to get into. And we discarded that simply because it was infeasible for our organizational size. Flat fee per household, again, that doesn't give us the ability to really influence the variable component, which is the volume of the weight, and it doesn't really give us a good way to offset any disproportionate impact on senior houses, on people that are disposing of less than the average. So that gets us into a cart-based system and what kind of carts we would look at. So we've got a couple of data points that basically suggest that a 35-gallon cart is the right size cart for our basic service. So I have my little blue friend over there. He's not just there to pick up your trash, although I'm sure there's some in it by now. That's a 35-gallon cart. And basically we've got a lot of different data points that say for most people, most of the time, that does the job.
You want to move to that
Yep.
slide?
All right, so this is one of our data points right here, and this was our survey that we did last year. About 65% of the house says, of the town says, hey, most of the time, we dispose of garbage that fits in there. It's about 3 kitchen-sized bags fits in there on a regular basis, and that is the strong majority of our households. We have some people that are a little bit over, but then we also looked at what are we average trash per household. On average, across Westford, we're using about 65% of the capacity that would be there if everybody had a 35-gallon cart. Now, that's an average, so that's not every house, but all the data points really seem to show that that's the right size cart if we want to incentivize waste reduction and still provide a basic level service that is free and under the levy. So the number one thing we looked at, the first option is basically one cart and a second cart. There's some downsides to this approach. We would issue one cart free for every household. The second cart would be an annual sticker base. So you don't have the sticker, you don't get that cart picked up, and that is renewed every year. We manage that in-house. It does come with some staff time, and it may not do what we hope it would do in terms of trash reduction, because people do have a tendency to fill the cart. As you see some of the advantages and the disadvantages right here, it's easy and it would be convenient, but it may not get us to what our waste disposal goals are, although it is a solid, well-predictable revenue source. So what would this mean for our residents? Most people would pay nothing extra most of the time. The challenge with the second cart is how do people determine whether they need a cart or not? So what we looked at was kind of what's the average across the state for towns that are doing these kind of programs. The stickers range from about $180 to $240 a year. And the cart purchase itself for that second cart, about $65 to $85. This would be probably about a third of our town would opt into a second cart like this. And we don't know that this will really get us to the point of waste reduction, but it is a reliable way to get to automated service. And it theoretically still is a pay-as-you-throw program. People pay for the option to dispose of extra waste. So the second option that we looked at is the 35-gallon cart with an overflow bag. Right now, this is probably what our highest recommendation would be, but I think we still have a little bit more work. Again, you'd have a cart within the levy that everybody would get. We can fund these through a grant and basically recover about 75% of the cost of those carts. We have options for the way we would treat different bags. But right now across the state, we're about $246 on a bag for most of these towns on average. These kinds of bags would be sold at area retailers, grocery stores, gas stations. I picked up some this morning at the 7-Eleven when I was getting coffee on the way into work. So it's an easy, relatively easy thing once people get into the rhythm of using this. So advantages of this is it really does give us an incremental incentive to reduce waste. If we went with multiple bag sizes, that's really not much on us to manage, and it gives people the ability to get an 8-gallon bag or a 15-gallon bag and really try to cut their costs down, and they can purchase them only when they need them. The other, to me, probably biggest advantage of a cart and a bag is it lets us punt on the idea of a second cart to see whether or not people would really find an alternative like that attractive. We can always start with a program like this and add a second cart later without really having any investment in anything that we have to recoup or discard. Drawbacks of the bags is we do have collection costs from the vendor. They're going to charge us and take a revenue share of the bags that are involved. We're still negotiating out what that rate would be, but it could be 25, 50 cents a bag. And with all of these options, what do we do with all the carts that we have out there? We're still working through that, but that will come with some cost if we decide that's a service. If you decide that's a service that we want to provide, is recycling and disposal of existing carts. So the impact of this one, if we look at the average household, you can see really the last two bullet points are kind of the things to focus on. So if say we wind up at the state average, 27% of our households would wind up paying about $130 a year for those extra bags. And that's using, one bag a week, averages out to about $10 a month. But again, based on the numbers that we have, most people would not pay anything most of the time because their garbage would fit in this. This is probably the option that when you throw bags into the mix really does start to change behavior. So in terms of what it does to our overall goals, we're trying to be realistic with what we see this doing to our targets. And you'll see that What we're targeting is a 0.69 tons per household, so we're just above the other hybrid programs. We're below where we are now, and we're well above the average for all towns doing pay-as-you-throw, because we want to be realistic and conservative with our estimates. We're being extremely conservative when we estimate really across all households about a 10% reduction in tonnage, or about 525 tons. Saves us about 50 grand a year on our tipping fees, but we'll also have revenue that would come in from those bag sales. So ultimately, this does have, even after the program startup costs, a positive impact on the budget. So before I move on to these other things, in terms of carts, bags, any questions, any comments? I know I'm moving fast.
The pay-as-you-throw having been implemented as a new thing into towns, have they seen an increase in illegal dumping around town?
Yes, but we also, and I'll get to this in this slide right here, we had that problem just changing the program period. Other towns have it, not so much that it's been, I can't find any real good data from any town. Everybody says, oh, we see it, it pops up somewhere, and then we deal with it there, and it pops up there. What we were recommending is, if we do this, we need to have several other things happening concurrently. We need to have some other diversion activities. We need to do some things like mattress collection. We need to do some other recycling and diversion programs, but we need the revenue from a pay-as-you-throw program to pay for that. So that's something that I'll get to on the next slide, but illegal dumping is a concern. So pay-as-you-throw, any other questions on that, and then I can talk about illegal dumping. It's been a hot topic for us for the last, really the last 4 or 5 months. We have had an increase. We are looking at making some program changes. Really what's been happening is people are dumping on our properties. They're putting them in our dumpsters, and they're putting them next to our dumpsters at both our school properties, our town properties. What we are recommending that we do immediately is we begin locking all of our dumpsters. We're going to remove a handful that we think we don't necessarily need where we have them. We're going to do a public education campaign, and we're going to do some signage, and we're going to start with that, and we want to see what that does. Our guess is that probably concentrates the dumping in certain locations and lets us enforce heavily. So we've had a group of DPW and public safety staff, our office, facilities, everybody's kind of working together to figure out what's the best way to do this that kind of works within our resources and gets us to our ultimate goal. Any questions on the dumping piece? Okay, so the other thing that we need to do, and this really is, it could be an option to reduce tonnage, but really I think we need to look at the policy that was passed in 2019 by the Select Board when the other changes were made originally to the trash program, where we discontinued by policy collection at all nonprofit and housing authority properties, but we never stopped. So we have been continuing to collect at those properties since that time, and it's very clear in the policy that we should be either not collecting there or charging them for the cost of providing these services. So I've already had some conversations with a few of them. This is going to be guidance that we need from the board, is what do we do about these properties that are not paying taxes but are receiving the service? So that is something that we feel like needs to be dealt with before we move into a pay-as-you-throw program. Okay, here we go. So I mentioned a minute ago that we do feel we need to have a number of other diversion opportunities come up with this. We've got a few of these in the works right now. On your next agenda, you're going to see an agreement with a mattress collection company that's going to do curbside in town. They've also agreed to collect our mattresses that people illegally dump for no cost. Kyle's got quite a big, well, not anymore, you had quite a big collection sitting down at DPW, but those are the kind of programs that we need to have, because it's a whole lot cheaper for me to collect those than it is to pay 2 guys to go pull them out of the woods. We're also taking another look at the food waste partnership we had with Bootstrap. We're looking at some additional vendors and having conversations about how do we expand that. That's not going to be a big needle mover, but it's going to be something that we can do to pair alongside a pay-as-you-throw just to help ease a little bit of that burden. We also are working with the Recycling Commission right now to figure out where are the other gaps in our services. So we've got a good inventory of what they have done and all the programs they have. We're going to do some survey work to see what do people want that we're not doing, and how do we increase the frequency of those programs, which is going to take revenue, which is going to have to come from a pay-as-you-throw program. So all these things will work together, and we're in the process of finishing up this comprehensive waste reduction plan that'll kind of lay out how all those things will work. But in a nutshell, that's pretty much where we are right now. And look at that, Chris, I kept us ahead of time. So what are we looking for right now from the select board? I felt it was good just to go ahead and lay out, these are the questions. So one is, in terms of a pay-as-you-throw program, assuming that we still want to move down that path, can we move forward with modeling out a 35-gallon cart option and then bring you some recommendations for the best way to deal with the overflow? So that's the first question.
What's feeling the board?
I'm a yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
I think we're in consensus.
That was easy. Okay. All right. So the next piece, and I'll come back to you with more information on the overflow very soon. Fee-for-service proposal for the housing authorities. I think we're better served by providing them service and collecting revenue than just cutting them loose, because they'll get a better deal lumping onto our contract. That will require potentially revisiting the policy and talking about, other impacts from that. But again, we're collecting for about 202 households we see no revenue from. So if you guys are good with me running with that, then I will reach out to all of them and we'll start getting that working as well.
Any questions on that, John?
No, I think so, of course.
I'm a yes on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we want to provide support, we would do it directly and not in some hidden way like this. And they certainly pay for water and they pay for other utilities and services they receive. So I'm in favor too.
Being part of a housing authority, it doesn't mean that you pay no rent, right? It's just,
right,
might be reduced rent or something. So, real quick, Mike. So I appreciate the presentation. Of the towns who are doing curbside pay-as-you-throw, as you've described, did you look into how many are doing 35-gallon versus a step up from it?
Yes, I don't have the exact numbers on the step up, because once you get over 35, the state stops considering them a pay-as-you-throw and just regular garbage service. But you got about 17 towns that are using a 35-gallon cart as part of a pay-as-you-throw program. You have other towns that use it, but then they may have 3 or 4 carts. So, but the ones that are specifically doing that type of a program, it's 17.
Okay.
And there's actually been a couple of new ones very recently. Topsfield is a good example. They just started that there was actually their picture of the 2 35-gallon carts with a sticker. Not much data coming out of that one yet, because it's only a couple months old, but now that I know 35-gallon cart is our foundation, I'll go dig a little bit more and talk to each one of those towns and find out, all right, what'd you learn? What'd you screw up? What'd you do right?
Sure.
And we'll bring that back to you also. Because I don't want to put anything out that we don't at least have a halfway decent idea of what could go wrong.
Any comments from?
I don't see anything online now.
Thanks, Mike. So great presentation, and you answered you preemptively answered a lot of our questions. So thank you. Appreciate that.
You got 39 seconds.
Next up, we want to invite our moderator. Madam Moderator, come join us for a discussion of special town meeting. And Kristen, are you going to take us through the warrant, and we'll vote on those that the timing is right?
Sure. I'll allow Madam Moderator to speak on anything she wishes to first before we get started.
Motion or warrants?
I think I looked through the proposed warrant. Everything looks fine as it did last time too. And I don't have any questions at this point, so you can go ahead.
Sure. Just town meeting logistics. Town meeting is Monday, October 27th at Westford Academy, starting at 7 p.m. It's getting late. We will start check-in about 6 p.m. We do have the signups for transportation and childcare available right now, and tomorrow.
We are doing childcare?
We are doing it. Last year we didn't have anyone show, but we are preparing for that. We worked with the recreation department and the moderator on that. The survey will go out tomorrow asking people if they've attended past town meetings and if they plan to attend this town meeting. Last town meeting, I believe we had 666 registered voters appear throughout the day. So we just used the gymnasium. We are prepared to use the gymnasium and the PAC at this point in time, unless the survey tells us otherwise. We are not enhancing that any further over the 1,600 clickers and seats for the town meeting members. So this evening we have 13 article warrant before you. There is one added article based upon what I presented to you at your previous meeting. We do have one bill of prior year that Mike alluded to from our from our disposal contract. And that does require a 9/10 vote. It's very unique in that. So I'm happy to go through each article. You generally take the zoning articles, which is Article 4, 5, 6, and 7 after the planning board votes their recommendation. My understanding is that they are voting on Monday evening, September 29th. The Finance Committee is meeting on Thursday evening this week, September 25th, to review Article 1, 2, and 3, as those are financial articles. And then the remaining articles are here before you this evening as well. So, Mr. Chair, I will take whatever you suggest.
We had a fairly thorough discussion of many of these before. So I guess I would propose to my colleagues here, unless there's some new change or development for these, I don't think we need a full description again. Okay. Okay, so can you just remind me the amount of the unpaid bill?
I believe it's 11,000 and change.
Okay.
And we do have that within our fiscal 26 budget, as our waste has been lower than we anticipated. So it will be fully encompassed in the fiscal 26 budget.
Okay, thank you for that. And we would typically vote on 1, 2, 3 after our colleagues in the Finance Committee vote.
My understanding is that, yes, you would.
That's typically what we do.
Yes, and then, so I would recommend, if you're comfortable this evening, voting Articles 8 through 13. I don't see any changes to those.
Let me just take these in a block. Any questions or discussions around Articles 1 through 3? We're not going to vote tonight, but questions on those?
I have a question.
Yeah.
For some reason, I'm blanking on Article 11. Can you just, the 30-second highlight on the municipal property for solar?
Yes, Article 11 has to do with a power purchase agreement for the Blanchard Middle School. So we built the roof to be solar ready. There may be some incentives or some programs that may expire by the end of the year. So we want to authorize town meeting to authorize the select board to enter into a power purchase agreement if it makes sense for the town.
Thank you.
Okay.
John, did you have a question?
Well, I had a question on Article 8.
Yeah, okay. Let's go ahead and do that.
Yeah, right here, based on the way I read that section, shouldn't you put, instead of the town meeting, select board in there? Aren't we required to approve, isn't the select board required to approve that sort of thing? There's a funding.
There's a funding mechanism.
Issue there.
Right, so town meeting and select board, town meeting approves the funding.
Yeah.
The select board approves the classification and compensation schedule in terms of the funding. And at this point in time, the town manager could create a position or move the grade, and town meeting would approve that.
Yeah.
We're proposing that the Personnel Advisory Committee would approve the town manager's recommendation for expeditious movement.
Where does that say it in here?
So on the screen right now, we added that wording today. The Personnel Advisory Committee voted on that on September 8th. So to classify new positions and reclassify existing positions upon review and approval by the Personnel Advisory Committee.
So is this consistent with the responsibilities of the town charter?
Yes, it is. And town council has reviewed it as well.
Any other questions on any individual articles before we move to take a position on 9, 10, 11, 12? Is that right?
8 through 13.
8 through 13. Any questions on any of those? Okay,
Oh, wait, I had one question on 10.
okay.
Why 10 years?
So we feel that we can have more favorable pricing as well as have a more stable contractor throughout the course of that.
That's going to be kind
Do you want
of
to?
iffy, right, as far as price changes? And
Well, we do have built into it adjustments over time, so it does track with the CPI. And the way that this is, essentially this gives us kind of three things. One is we would expect to have better pricing, potentially, we may not. We also would expect to really not have to go through this process every 3 years, have stability in there, and there's always the potential that by opening up to a longer period of time, other contractors may decide they want to get into this type of a market that they wouldn't look at a 3-year contract. So, but we do have mechanisms within the RFP in the way they will propose their price that allow it to adjust.
So you like this a lot better, you put 5?
Oh, yeah, yeah. And we can get out of it at any point.
Right, that's
Okay.
without penalty.
Yeah, Kyle, there's no penalty in there. No. This gives some certainty for us. If it doesn't work, we can get out of it. But this comes directly from the Budget Task Force, told us to look at longer-term contracts. There is certainly the potential for cost savings. There is absolutely the potential for efficiencies of operations and predictability.
Okay, if there are any other questions, I'll entertain a motion to recommend Article 8, amendment to the personnel section of the general bylaw.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Article 9, I'll entertain a motion to recommend authorization for the select board to approve license conversion.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Number 10, authorize wastewater contracted services contracts for up for 10 years. I'll entertain a motion to recommend.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Number 11, I'll entertain a motion to recommend authorization, to authorize the lease of municipal property for solar photovoltaic installation.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Excited about that one. Article 12, I'll entertain a motion to recommend acceptance of D. Donato Drive as a public way.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now, this last one, we can decide whether or not we want to take a position. Sometimes we don't take a position on citizens petitions. So first, maybe we can have a short discussion whether or not we feel we wish to take a position on number 13, to authorize the select board to petition the general court for an additional alcohol off-premises license to be exercised by Main Street Convenience located at 103 Main Street, Westford. As I recall, the last one of these that came before us, we did not take a position. Is that correct?
That is correct. The last one was slightly different. They did not have a license at all, and they were petitioning for a license.
Okay.
Main Street Convenience does currently have a beer and wine license, and they're looking to increase that to an all-alcohol license. But you are correct, the board did not take a position on the last citizen petition related to alcohol
And
license.
would Article 9, where is that in the process? At what point would Article 9 give us the power to do this through the?
So
separate-
Article 9 is totally separate because that is restaurants, and
Oh,
this
I'm
is
sorry.
convenience store, package store.
You're exactly right, okay. So what's the feeling of the board? Do we want to listen to the voices of the people on this or take a
Yeah.
position?
I think so.
Listen.
I mean, my position is just let it go to town meeting.
Oh,
Certainly if that's what we've done in the past, yeah.
We don't have, we don't have a say there.
Well,
Sometimes for things, I mean,
it should be.
things like this, citizens petitions in general, sometimes we take a position, sometimes we don't. So the question
Sure.
is, it is going to town meeting. The question is, do we want to take a
I
position
guess,
on this?
what would be the downside of not taking a position, just to switch it around?
I don't think for something like this, there is a downside to not take a position. My own position, my own first thought, having heard discussion with you, would be to not take a position because I don't think I don't think the town has an advocacy position for this individual site, one or the other.
That's a good way of looking at it. I mean, the one way I look at it is this board is supporting a small business and in their endeavors to make themselves more viable. So that was one way I was looking at it. But if the town doesn't typically take positions on something like that, I can see it that way as well.
I wouldn't worry about the precedent. I think we can just, if we feel like we if we feel like it's in scope and also in the interest of the town to support it, we can make a recommendation. My own take when this has come up before is that they'll have the opportunity to hear what the town wants on this, and the purpose of a citizen's petition is to hear what the town wants, not what we want. So.
Well, there's nothing saying that if someone really wanted to know how the select board felt about it, we could take a vote on the fly at the meeting, right?
I mean, if they asked,
They wanted-
my first response would be to say, we've elected not to take a position, but if the board at the time said you wanted to do it, we could do it on the floor. We would huddle up and decide what to do, but if we decide we did want to take a position, we would take a vote on the floor.
I'll go back to my previous statement. I think it would be nice for us to show support for a small business that, you know, that's in our community. Why would we not want to do that?
I don't think that the board voted either way in the last instance because there was concern either way. So if you wanted to stay neutral, don't take a position. If you wanted to feel strongly one way or another, you take a position one way or another.
I don't feel strongly, but I just, you know, I could see taking a position, but I'm not gonna, I'm going with whatever the board wants to do.
What's the feeling, Russ?
I don't feel like we need to take a position on that.
I would suggest that we don't. On the basis
John, do you have a take?
prioritizing.
Okay. Why don't we proceed tonight not taking a position? It sounds like that's by a small amount of consensus. Okay, anything else on the warrant?
Nothing else on the warrant, so we will ask for your recommendations on Articles 1 through 7 at your October 14th meeting. That'll likely be after the postcard is mailed, but we will update the website and we'll be driving people to the website for more information. Am I forgetting anything?
Has it been signed?
The warrant will be signed tonight, so you'll be voting to sign the warrant, and you have it right here. Yes,
But they have to take a vote to sign it,
they
right?
do, yes.
And that's.
Seems like something you want to do.
It is under number 13B, so page 3.
13B, there we go, okay.
So we did a little bit out of order, thank you.
Yeah, so I will entertain a motion to set the order and then sign the warrant. Well, do we need a motion to sign? We're going to physically sign.
You should vote on signing it.
You want to vote on signing it?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
So I'll entertain a motion for the select board to set the order and to sign the warrant.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We will sign it. Thank you, Madam Moderator, for reminding us. Okay, we're at the 9 o'clock item, which is old new business.
Time.
Kristen, would you-
Yes, so Dan O'Donnell, our finance director, is going to join us at the table. We have several policies that we'd like the board to review, potentially act upon. Dan, I will turn it over to you for the other post-employment benefits OPEB trust document.
OPEBs, and everybody knows that OPEBs are my favorite. Could talk for a while about this, but I'll just give you the brief overview. Just for those watching, OPEBs are other post-employment benefits other than pension. So Westford, this is health insurance and a small life insurance policy. So every other year, we're required to have an actuarial study that we have performed by Odyssey Advisors. And then on the off years, we just have an update to that policy. So this year, Parker Elmore, the CEO of Odyssey Advisors, gave us a checklist about the items he wanted. This year, he included a request for an irrevocable trust document, which we did not have approved at this time. We haven't needed it in the past because we established the OPEB trust back in 2011, and that was before the modernization update. However, we did switch audit firms this year to CLA, and they're a national audit firm where we were using Markham before, which is a regional. So CLA is a little more conservative with how they interpret the Massachusetts laws. So Parker was saying he strongly advises us to have a signed trust document for this year heading into the OPEB update. So before us, we did get a template for the OPEB trust from Rockland Trust, and it was updated by council. And basically, it's a simple document. It's basically what we're doing in practice now, where the treasurer collector will be the trustee, and then with oversight from the town manager. And it just gives us that signed document that says this is an irrevocable trust, and it would satisfy CLA's need to have that document, basically. So what could happen if we don't have a signed trust is if CLA takes the approach that they don't recognize Chapter 32B, Section 20 under MGL, which is the irrevocable trust for the OPEB, they could impact our interest rate, which would be at more of a market rate analysis rather than our investment policy. And that could impact our OPEB liability to the tune of $22 million. So I want to have this in place for the auditors for this fall, just so we protect ourselves and protect our bond rating moving forward.
There's no reason not to do it.
No, everything will operate as it does right now.
Largely procedural. Okay. Any questions? I'll entertain a motion to adopt the OPEB trust document in accordance with requirements of JSB Statement Number 75.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, and the
Next.
second one is the capital planning policy. Yes, thank you, Chris. So, at Chris's suggestion, I actually took a webinar back in May that has a series of financial policies that the state has templates on, which Chris also mentioned as well. So we decided to start with capital, which is one that we do have good financial practices, but we just want to formalize the policy. Again, this is just good for, if we have turnover within the town leadership. It's great to document these policies for our ratings, so that's going to be a constant theme with me throughout the fall, is maintaining that rating with large projects out there, and basically just provides transparency and accountability moving forward. So the plan is we started with this one in practice. We have a template set up, and there's about 20 other policies that we want to work on in the coming months, years, so on, to start building that policy book of financial policies moving forward.
So not a change or an augmentation of policy, just documentation basically of the policy as it is.
It's basically writing down what we do, which is best practice, working in the strategic plan as well.
Any questions?
I got one.
Sure.
When you say all department heads, is this just for the town side? Do you include schools in here?
The schools will be included, so normally it's Jeff Goodwin putting forward the request for the schools.
Well, and also you say, and for assets owned by the town, all current assets, that's always been a kind of an issue as to what assets we're talking about. You include the library and the schools in this.
Yeah, any fixed asset. So basically our threshold is $50,000. So if there's any asset bought that's over $50,000, that goes on our fixed asset schedule. So which our accounting department maintains.
Okay, I'm not sure.
So yes, town, we do imply schools, library properties, water properties, care and custody, select board, all of the properties.
In the past, that hasn't always been understood,
Okay.
especially when we were doing the library beginning. And then we have the, on your general list, you have the Permanent Town Building Committee, there's a policy in there.
Okay.
We had a policy back in 2007, it was listed as a policy, and it was modified. I don't think it ever found the policy book. I have a copy of it. I think I gave you a copy of it. And that was a policy that was really used here in the recent past. That maybe it never was accepted, it was not followed. So I'd be interested to see what that's going to look like.
The PGDC. Okay, Kristen, you have that?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, that would be in concert with what we're talking about
Yeah,
tonight.
yeah.
Okay. Any other issues related to what we're talking about tonight? Yeah, Chris?
I had one of the things.
Oh, yeah, go for it, John.
A little repetition here. We list the prioritization criteria twice. It just seems like a.
That's just because of how the template's laid out.
Yeah, I know. At least I remembered it from the first time I read it.
That's right.
I don't know whether you want to streamline that or not.
So the long-term debt is only, the threshold's only 100,000. For some reason I had in my mind it was the $500,000 that we were looking for.
Typically, we've had instances in the past where, like for the cemetery, where we didn't have enough available funds that we bonded, then we funded the project later. So with this policy, we're trying not to basically limit our flexibility with how we can operate. So, but typically anything under $500,000, 5 years, we probably don't want to borrow long-term.
Right, okay. Does that need to be put into this document, or just we keep it some flexibility?
I think the flexibility is really good to have.
So the other thing that caught my eye is this note. computers, related technology, and police cruisers are explicitly excluded from this definition due to their recurring annual nature. So computers certainly comes to capital. Our friend Mike here brings it to capital. So I was wondering why that was there. I know we've had discussions in the past about police cruisers, and I also thought that related technology was a bit open-ended. Maybe we needed to, I don't know what you guys were trying to bundle into that.
So like servers and things like that we normally have, like those all go to capital at this point in time. So with the computers, just so we,
Well, so what do you mean by excluded from this definition? If they're coming in front of capital, why are we excluding them from this First of all, the definition, I assume, is related to the four or five bullet points ahead of that statement. So I just, it wasn't really clear what you were trying to do with this note. I could understand the police cruisers, but I didn't understand why computers and, now that you explain related technology, why that's being excluded.
from that definition, so computers typically, they're bundled, so they're not over $10,000 on their own. So I think it was related to that. So that was a policy that we had written back in 2010 or 2011, something like that. So I took it right from the existing definition that we had. So it's kind of weird because cruisers, they do last 5 years, but they're excluded because we paid for them through the operating because they're recurring every year.
I don't know if it makes sense can we clarify that
Sure.
statement just a little bit?
I remember having this conversation with you a few months ago, so we can go back in our notes.
I don't think it needs much, but certainly I think like we could just have, police cruisers are exempted because for what you just said, and computers and technologies are because of what we just talked
Sure.
about. I think it just needs that, and then I would be super happy with this. And I really appreciate you guys putting this together. As a former capital planning member, I think this would have been very, very helpful for me to have throughout my tenure, and I think as we bring new people into that, super helpful for them, getting their feet underneath them and being productive. So thank you very much for putting the time and effort into doing this.
Of course. Chris, are you comfortable proceeding tonight with that recommendation, with that as amended recommendation?
Yes, I have full confidence that they will clarify the document as necessary.
Any other questions about this item, capital planning policy?
I will just point out, we did bring this to the capital planning committee and they did review it, so just want to
Okay.
let the select board know that.
Excellent. Okay, if there aren't any, I'll entertain a motion to accept the capital planning policy as part of the town's comprehensive financial policy framework.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Can't wait to see the next one.
All right.
Bring it.
Thank you.
Furthermore, I'll entertain a motion to, I'll entertain a motion to appoint Scott Hazelton to a full member seat for a term expiring June 30th, 2026 to the Historical Commission.
So there is not any written documentation on this. We have asked, we also asked for a letter or email from them. He was the only one who applied for this position, is my understanding. He did go to the meeting, get interviewed. I understand that that goes against slightly your recommendations to bring forward.
Well, we still haven't got that formalized, so we're still operating this gray area, but yeah. If he's the only applicant, it makes it a little easier. The position was advertised for how long?
Months.
Okay.
It was open for a long time.
Okay, I'll entertain that motion.
Move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent.
Keep Scott busy.
Yeah, that's right. I thought he was retiring, but not. I guess not. Minutes for approval. Any questions or comments about the minutes listed here for approval? No problem. John, any questions or comments about the minutes? No. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to release regular session minutes from June 30th, July 8th, July 22nd, August 12th, and August 26th, all of 2025. And release for executive session the minutes for June 30th, 2025, and August 12th, 2025.
I just want to clarify, June 13th?
Yep.
Okay. Did you say 30th or 13th?
Yeah.
Okay.
For avoidance of doubt, June 13th,
Okay.
2025.
Maybe my hearing is going tonight as well.
I will entertain that motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Board reports and updates.
All right, so last meeting, we did give you a template for board and committee update calendar. I think we received some feedback this week. We will be having the Economic Development Committee coming forward on October 14th. We're still developing that calendar. If anyone has feedback tonight or wants to provide that to us in an email or a phone call, we're happy to receive that. We're trying to bundle who comes when, what is more timely rather than less timely, and people that are committees that we haven't heard from in a while that you'd like to get updates from.
Good, thank you for developing that further. Any other board reports or updates? Okay, town manager's report, Kristen.
The first thing I wanted to let the board know and members of the public know is our town staff has been working very diligently with Road and Bush to present a Monster Mash event on Saturday, October 25th. It will encompass the Road and Bush property, the town hall property. I'll let you take it away because you've been the mastermind of this.
This actually should be a pretty great event. So Nicole Laviolette and Michelle have been working very closely with Amanda and the rest of the Road and Bush team to really expand. They brought us just a very small event. It's going to be fairly large. They're looking to have essentially everything from Frost all the way down to the Common sort of involved in this process. We've got public safety heavily involved in it. DPW's bringing trucks out for a touch a truck. We're going to do a trunk or treat in this parking lot. Food trucks and touch a truck down on Frost Field and in their parking lots. And then the kids will be moving back and forth doing the trick or treat. So I would definitely encourage everybody to go check out Road and Bush's website. And if they want to register to do the trunk or treat, I think there still are some spaces left, but this is turning out to be, hopefully weather permitting, a very, very good event that it's really been a good partnership with Road and Bush. So,
sounds like fun.
Just a quick question. So what are you doing with parking for this?
At school.
So the kids are going to walk up from Abbott?
Well, that's just where any visitors and people like that will park, but there will be a little bit of parking for people that are coming here just around. I mean, you've got Conlin up there, we've got Canal, we've got our property on the other side, the police side, and then we've got around the Common
Lincoln
for
Street.
the most part. We're not closing any roads, but if there's a big turnout, I would expect people to be down at Abbott, and we're going to have police that are going to help us with crossing and pedestrian safety.
Okay. I mean, I'm hoping it's going to be great. So
I hope
I'm just
it's
trying to
gonna be
think,
huge.
if we do have a large turnout, what are we doing here?
We're
So-
pretty much using all of the parking areas, you know, the parking lot at Road and Bush and the parking lot at Frost and the parking lot at Town Hall on this side are going to be tied up with activities.
Right.
So
I'm
that's why we're looking at Abbott and hoping for good weather.
Oh, is there a rain day?
The rain date's, yes, they do have a rain date. I believe it's the next day because they did change the run that was supposed to happen
that's right.
on the day after. But there's not going to be any rain, Chris. It's going to be gorgeous. And we're going to have lots of kids come down. It's going to be great.
Mike can control the weather.
I know.
We're going to try.
Trash, weather, you name it.
Great, that sounds like an exciting event. Any questions for Mike about the Monster Mash? Okay.
All right, purchase orders, WL French Excavating Corporation for removal and disposal of street sweepings and catch basin cleanings in the amount of $35,000 as requested by the Public Works Department. Gov Connection for desktop and laptop computers in the amount of $23,381.10 as requested by the Technology Department. And First Due for the Fire Department software upgrades in the amount of $24,900 as requested by the Technology Department. And then contracts, in your executive session, you spoke about the Communication Workers of America, CWA collective bargaining agreement for fiscal 26 to 28 as requested by the town manager's office, and Alpine Environmental for exterior work on the Road and Bush Community Center in the amount of $9,700 as requested by the facilities department.
I'll entertain any questions? Yeah. Yep. Could you please come up to the microphone?
Introduce yourself.
Now, new
For another 2.5 weeks.
Oh, that's right, you're not a civilian yet.
No. I just want to mention the First Due software upgrade. that is also, that one of the items that's going to be appearing on Article 3 there's an additional appropriation because the fire department are required to meet some new standards in reporting by the end of the year. So we have to buy them some additional software. But obviously we didn't budget for that a year ago when we were drawing that budget up. So we're asking for additional appropriation, but we're also asking you to approve the purchase order in advance of that because we need to buy it to get it implemented by the end of the year.
Thank you. Thanks for clarifying. Any questions about that? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the purchase orders and contracts as represented in our agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? All right, come on, guys. We're almost there.
Hey, before we go into correspondence,
Yeah.
I did have a very brief thing for board reports and updates, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
I blanked on it, but since Kyle's here, he's gonna leave. I just wanna give kudos because for those of us who aren't aware, we finally finished the Jack Walsh Court refurbishment project. If you haven't been down to Jack Walsh recently, please take a drive down. It looks phenomenal. The playground was spruced up. New basketball courts, new tennis courts, and of course 4 pickleball courts, which have been overwhelmingly, successful and greatly appreciated by the town and greatly used. So much to the point that we have to start looking at reservation policies and things of that nature. So it's just been a long slog. This has been a multi-year project. That facility's been offline for years, and certainly all the stuff that Kyle had to deal with to get it over the finish line was not a small ask. So thank you, Kyle, for sticking with it. The community really enjoys it, and I hope you appreciate seeing people out there all the time using it because it's really cool to see that rehabilitation work completed.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Chris. Any questions about correspondence tonight? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to waive the reading of correspondence.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sean, are you and I on that?
Oh, all right.
It's been a long day.
Well, no, I do think though, the temperature in this room has gone up, hasn't it? And it's getting late, I think we're getting sleepy.
The oxygen level is dropping.
It certainly has.
I was thinking of all those great renovations at Jack Walsh.
Lost it in a reverie. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.